Welcome back. LADOL is the first base specifically designed to meet the logistical needs of deep-water offshore oil and gas operations and projects in and around Nigeria, created to ensure that the nation benefits directly from its deep offshore oil and gas reserves. The base provides all logistical services, including warehousing, material handling equipment, fabrication and assembly yards, people management, catering, bunkering of fuel and water, facilities for the supply of bulk materials, and much more. My guest is Dr. Amy Jadesimi. She is the Managing Director of LADOL. In 2013, she was awarded Young Global Leader by the World Economic Forum and a Rising Talent by the Women's Forum for Economy and Society. In 2015, Forbes included her in the 20 youngest power women in Africa. Let's find out if this has in any way pushed her to do more for women.
One of the most important things to remember when supporting women is the economic benefit this brings to the world. So I was one of 33 CEOs on the Business and Sustainable Development Commission. And one of the reports we produced was called Women Leading on the SDGs. And that's about how you cannot achieve the SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, unless you first achieve Goal 5, which is about female empowerment. And if you achieve Goal 5, McKinsey Research Institute has concluded that that will increase global GDP by $28 trillion. So this report that was compiled by the Commission was sent to a lot of top CEOs across the world and demonstrated to them that they could not maximize the return for their shareholders. They couldn't do their job properly unless they were investing in women, recruiting women, supporting women to stay in work, which means supporting husbands if they want to take time out of work, which is a controversial idea in Nigeria. And it also is about getting women back into work. And it spans the breadth of women working in corporate institutions as well as those women entrepreneurs that are trying to raise funds for investment.
As a founding member of the Business and Sustainable Development Commission, I recall that announcement was made at the World Economic Forum in Davos in 2016. How has your efforts been able to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals?
The Business and Sustainable Development Commission was chaired by Lord Mark Malloch Brown, and I was one of the 33 CEOs from across the world that was a commissioner on that board. The board produced a really important document that showed CEOs across the world that if they supported sustainable business models, the global GDP would increase by $12 trillion. So if you have a sustainable business model, a new economy business model, and you tap into opportunities in healthcare and urbanization, in green power, etc., you're going to make more money for longer and you're going to outcompete your competitors.
I recall LADOL joined the private sector coalition fight against COVID-19, and I also know that every year you celebrate the World Tuberculosis Day. Tell us how much effort you have put in to reducing the health challenges in Nigeria.
Addressing healthcare challenges in Nigeria is an absolutely essential part of everything that we do and everything that everybody should be doing. And the pandemic that we suffered this year brought that home. Fortunately, Nigeria reacted quickly, and I think we reacted well. We leaned on the learnings that we had from the Ebola crisis, and when at a very early stage the central bank governor, His Excellency Godwin Emefiele, put out a call for private sector to join, our chairman jumped at this chance. And I think that, this is another example of how Nigerians come together really well during a crisis. And we see that over and over again. But we didn't just help at the high level, we also helped on the ground. And the two things that we found were really important were providing palliatives, and we provided some palliatives through the Nigerian Ports Authority, providing PPE to the local communities, providing PPE to the parastatals we're working with, but also providing education, providing people with information and making sure that there was an easy flow of information and an easy flow of ideas throughout this crisis, because people need to be empowered to take care of themselves. And we realized at a very early stage that for our staff, for the community surrounding us in Tarkwa Bay, just giving food and PPE wasn't enough. It was important to also empower them to take care of themselves by giving them the best information we had access to. So we went out into those communities, and as we were giving out these palliatives, we also gave out the best information we had to make everyone feel like this was something that we could combat if we all took it on as a challenge that we had to meet together. So COVID-19 is just the latest of a series of health crises that have been plaguing the world. In Nigeria, we were plagued by polio until just recently when it was eradicated. And that was another huge achievement that Nigeria has made this year. On the LADOL level, we see tuberculosis, we see HIV, we see malaria. These are everyday challenges. We see occupational health challenges. Now, one way that the company is geared up to tackle these challenges is through our certifications and the policies and procedures we put in place. So LADOL was the first company in West and North Africa to be ISO 45001 and ISO 18001 certified. These are international certifications that prove that we're best in class in having policies and procedures implemented on the ground to tackle occupational health and environmental wellness within our environment and our surrounding communities.
Now, a lot of people have heard about the Prince's Trust Initiative, which is aimed at reducing unemployment in Nigeria and even outside Nigeria. Tell us about it and how it works.
LADOL is a founding patron, and I sit on the advisory board for the Prince's Trust International. So a lot of people will have heard about the Prince's Trust as a UK charity that is under His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales. And a few years ago, the Prince started the Prince's Trust International to achieve the same kind of remarkable results that the Prince's Trust has gotten in getting unemployable young people employed in the UK, to use that same technology that they developed to do this in the UK outside of the United Kingdom. The most important thing about it, and why I was so excited about working with them, is that the Prince's Trust doesn't bring technology from abroad and impose it on the local markets. The Trust started working in West Africa last year. And what happens is there's a local West African board on which our Executive Director Business Development, Jadesimi, sits. That board identifies the local challenges, identifies delivery vehicles, so local charities that then work with the Prince's Trust and use the Prince's Trust technologies to get thousands of people in West Africa employed.
How much impact has the Prince's Trust International Initiative had on beneficiaries, and do you have numbers of how many people have been helped through this initiative?
So the Prince's Trust International only started in 2015, and between then and now, 16,000 young people have been helped by the Prince's Trust International. This, though, we expect to grow exponentially over the next years and decades, because if you look at the Prince's Trust itself, which was started in the UK over 40 years ago, within the UK they've helped over 950,000 young people. And obviously applying that same technology across the world, we can expect to help millions of people over the same time period.
Let's talk about education. Tell us the impact LADOL has made in improving the education sector in Nigeria and, of course, outside Nigeria.
LADOL believes in a meritocracy, and we believe in giving people a helping hand to get as much education as they want or need. Because the worst thing in the world is not to know what you don't know. And what education does is open up so many opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't know about. So we support the local communities in Tarkwa Bay with scholarships for school and university. We also work through the Oxford and Cambridge Club to support young people who are attending Oxford or Cambridge, and we work with the UK government's Chevening Scholarship Programme.
You've had several healthy partnerships, but tell us how this has helped influence implementation of your corporate social responsibility efforts.
Thank you. So partnerships are really important to LADOL. We have an important partnership with a company called Systemic, which is a British advisory group that advises companies on how to become more sustainable and build new economy business models. A Danish company called Niras, which is an engineering company that helped us put together our upgraded master plan, which will turn LADOL into a circular economy, supporting a range of industries from agriculture to green technology. We also have a partnership with an organization called P4G, Partners for Green Growth. This is also Danish, but they're global. And they've helped us turn the master plan for LADOL into a blueprint for sustainable industrialization of Africa. And through the P4G group, the LADOL master plan, or blueprint, if you like, is already being replicated in Kenya and Ethiopia. Is about sustainably industrializing the continent, and this is really important. So we've taken the technology and know-how from the West, we've localized it, and we've engineered local solutions such that in the LADOL setting, we'll be able to support agricultural processing of everything from yam to cassava to flour to cashew nuts. But in processing those products, we're also going to take their waste and use their waste in the future expansion of our power plant, which will be a biomass plant. That will reduce the costs of power within the zone by 90%, but also reduce emissions and take us one step closer to achieving the SDGs.
I'd recall in 2015, Financial Times made you one of the top 25 women to watch in Africa. So tell us, 25 years to come, what should we be looking in terms of things that you will do to help the society?
Thank you. That's a really difficult question to answer because I don't like talking about myself. But what I will say is this. I think, the serious part of the answer is the extent to which, my having a platform enables me to deliver the message to Nigerian women, young and old, women who have left work who want to come back into it, young girls who are thinking about whether or not to go to secondary school, to the extent that I can be an example that encourages them to keep going, that encourages them to know that there's no limit to what they can achieve, and more importantly, that tells them that if they do not strike out, if we do not have women's empowerment, women's equality in Nigeria, we cannot achieve national prosperity. And as we go into the second phase of development of LADOL, we're all about building a platform to launch thousands of SMEs and local companies. 80% of the jobs that need to be created in the world will be created by SMEs. So over the next 5 years, we at LADOL will be focused on rolling out our master plan. That master plan will create a platform into which local companies can come and use the infrastructure and facilities we've built to grow their own stories.
Well, I hope more women are inspired to do their best for themselves and, of course, the society.